The musical, during the early and golden age in undeniably white-dominated space. White bodies, white beauty, white heroism, charm, and love. Hoffman, in his book The Great White Way, notes how the musical was written by white people, for white people, about white people. While there were non-white musicals and musicals about race, they often didn't achieve mainstream release or success, that is, until South Pacific. South Pacific, released in 1958, was based on Roger and Hammerstein's Pulitzer Prize-winning stage musical and became the highest-grossing movie of the year. South Pacific follows two couples stationed in the Polynesian islands during World War II. Cable is an American lieutenant that falls in love with Liat, a Tonkinese native. Nellie is a nurse from Little Rock, who falls for Emile, a French planter living on the island. Over the course of the film, Nellie gets engaged to Emile, but starts backing out on learning Emile has two half-Polynesian kids from a previous marriage. When approached with the prospect of marriage, Cable refuses because he doesn't want Liat's special children. By the end of the film, Cable has been killed in combat, leaving behind a distraught Liat, and Nellie has overcome her racism and agreed to embrace Emile and his children. South Pacific's release date in 1958 corresponded with the phasing out of the production codes, which had previously forbade Hollywood from showing miscegenation, the mixing of races, making these stories especially potent. Indeed, the theatrical production met resistance in the South, where the musical's messaging was seen as justification of interracial marriage, but their attempts to modify the material were ultimately unsuccessful. Although the mixed relationships of South Pacific were unconventional, its representation of race fell into traditional patterns of whiteness versus non-whiteness. Dyer's ideas from the matter of whiteness are exemplified here, with whiteness central and normative, and race as only applied to non-white groups. White characters of South Pacific are articulate, emotionally complex, and righteous. Tonkinese natives are visually exoticized, with the two main characters, Bloody Mary and Liat, falling into traditional Asian stereotypes. Bloody Mary, played by a light-skinned African-American actress, speaks broken English, cackles unintelligently, and is intent on marrying her daughter off to a white man. Liat appears as a lotus blossom, practically mute, submissive, and performing childlike miming. The film's view on the Tonkinese is bluntly summarized by one character's comment,
"Who's she?" Nobody. She's Tonkinese.
The depiction of mixed-race children is neutral. They appear in only a couple scenes speaking French. South Pacific's representation of Asian characters' non-whiteness is highly colored to create exoticism. Interestingly, there was a large emphasis on color correction experimentation, with songs hypersaturated with primary colors, a choice criticized then and now, a recent review comparing it to an Eisenhower acid trip. When we consider the film's mixed-race relationships, we see old patterns of representation. Characters Nellie and Cable are reluctant to marry their lovers because of their innate racism, which is contrasted against Emile's progressive French perspective. At its climax, Emile confronts Cable about racism, claiming he cannot believe prejudice is born in people. Cable agrees, launching into the most controversial song of the film, You've Got to Be Carefully Taught.
You've got to be taught to be afraid of people whose eyes are oddly made, and people whose skin is a different shade. You've got to be carefully taught.
In this moment of self-loathing, Cable shows he believes his prejudice to be a product of societal teachings, but doesn't have the strength to go against it, even for love. Although South Pacific has the courage to be introspective of the history of miscegenation in America, the storylines do not demonstrate a significant departure from the depiction of mixed-race relationships. The only mixed relationships in the movie, Cable and Liat, and Emile and his Polynesian wife, are tragic, with one person having to die to move the story forward. This supports the idea that mixed love is temporary, romance destined not to last. Nellie and Emile are reconciled in the end, suggesting past miscegenation should be forgiven, and that a white partnership raising mixed children is unproblematic. However progressive South Pacific may have appeared in the 1950s following an enforced ban of media miscegenation, it did not radically challenge how interracial stories were told. Although South Pacific borrowed from Hollywood Asian stereotypes and the tradition of tragic miscegenation, it did signal a progressive shift by white audiences to consume miscegenation stories and question prejudice. South Pacific laid the groundwork for future mainstream movie musicals to discuss interracial relationships, although the next major successor, West Side Story, would similarly perpetuate the tragedy of miscegenation. It is only in the 21st century that musicals have come to normalize mixed-race relationships in the form of TV series such as Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, and Up Here. The musical, once a vehicle for white fantasies, is finally coming to encompass more diverse perspectives and create a space where everyone can sing.